This is Talk to Seattle, and I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode, I have Audrey Phillips from 365 Meaningful Conversations. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. So could you tell me just a little bit about this 365 Meaningful Conversations?
Yeah, it's a business that is all about creating spaces for people to have meaningful conversations. So I designed a box of cards that have 365 different questions that cover all sorts of topics like body image, grief, family dynamics, self-love, really all sorts of things that are often ignored in society. And what I do in Seattle is I host events for all different types of people to come together and connect with one another in meaningful conversations.
And how long have you been doing this?
So I started this design product accidentally about 2.5 years ago, and it took just about a year and a half to make everything. And then I did a little bit of fundraising, which took a few months. And I started hosting my first event back in May of 2018. And I went full-time on the business back in January. So it's only been a few months full-time, but a long project in the works.
And so how do the events work exactly?
So people hear about them in a bunch of different ways, but people show up and they make a little bit of small talk, and everyone gets a little name tag where you get a mark on a scale how comfortable you are sharing. So if you're super comfortable or uncomfortable. And you also get a mark on a scale if you're a talker or more of a listener. And then we have people pick colorful chips. So, for example, if you pick a yellow chip, that means you go sit at a yellow table. And you'll sit with typically 4 to 5 people. And I'll start each event by talking about what makes a meaningful conversation. And then I invite people to look through our box of 365 questions. And people get to pick their top 5 favorites, and they put them in this middle pile. And then basically the whole event is people asking and answering these questions. It's pretty special.
Sounds like a very creative way to help you connect with people.
Yeah, it wasn't like my intent to make an event all about connection, but over time I realized that we really need different ways to connect with one another because small talk just doesn't quite do it.
What motivated you to start this project?
Yeah, that's a really funny question because it started as an art project. I had always collected and drawn quotes. So on the back of each question, there's a quote that's associated with it, something that I've doodled. And I took those quote cards without any questions on them on this 2-month backpacking course. And we'd read these quotes and we'd have really interesting conversations talking about them. And it kind of clicked. I was like, wow, these quotes spark really interesting conversations. And at the end of that 2-month course, it ended with each of us getting to sit alone in the woods for 3 days. And I took all of my quote cards with me, and I got this idea to write a question on the back of each one. And it had this big purpose hit me. I was like, I don't know how, but I'm going to find a way to ask people these questions. And slowly over time, it morphed into me designing this product and then creating these events. But yeah, that was not my intent going out. It just kind of organically happened.
And so what do the cards say on them that helps people connect when they're at the events or even just when they have the box?
Yeah, they help in the way that it's like this magical little tool that you can use in a lot of different ways. Like whether you're a parent, you can use it with your kids, or a teacher, you can use it with your students. And these questions invite people to be really authentic and vulnerable. And we don't really get that invitation a lot in life. Mostly we just talk about the weather or sports or TV shows, which is great, and like I like those conversations sometimes, but these questions, like, they allow people to go beyond that and actually connect on a deeper level with people.
Which is extra interesting here in Seattle with our kind of notorious Seattle freeze.
Yes, which controversial, but I actually don't believe that there's, quote, a Seattle freeze, because I think it's hard at any age or location to meet people. I think there's a lot of research that shows that over time, we've lost our sense of community, which is attributed to our technology and people living alone more than they ever have before and lots of other things. But I don't think Seattle's maybe got it any harder than a different location. I've lived in different spots, and a pretty common thing I've heard in different reasons why, but is that it's just hard to meet people, and let alone it's hard to connect with them.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's more about modern life that really stops us from connecting than it is any like location.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think there's anything about Seattle specifically that is going to make it, impossible. I think it's just hard everywhere.
And that loneliness causes all kinds of health problems and psychological problems that people just don't realize. They think they can be all alone all the time, but that's not how humans were made.
I know. It's our biggest drive is, we're pack animals. Historically, we want to be together. We want to be connected. And I am so struck by the loneliness research. It is, your relationships are the number one indicator of your longevity and health, which is amazing because I don't think a lot of us, like you said, we don't prioritize that. And when we have this lingering loneliness, we're not really that active at fixing it. But it contributes to numerous health outcomes that, we don't want.
Yeah, you'll hear people quite often, they focus on their diet, exercise, taking vitamins, but very rarely do you hear them talking about really focusing and being intentional on building relationships.
Yeah, I think of it as the gym, like going to exercise gets so much attention, but that only really attends to our physical well-being. But why I love these events that we host, it focuses on your more emotional, even spiritual well-being, which comes from a lot of these relationships and getting in touch with yourself too. I think connection is all about, being with other people, but also getting in touch with our own emotions, experiences, thoughts. People don't give themselves a lot of space. We often are even more comfortable giving it to others, and sometimes we forget about just touching in with how we're doing.
And how often do you have these events?
So I just moved back to Seattle in January. So we've had 14 events so far, and feels like a lot, but my hope is that I'll have about 3 events a week. And in the spirit of community, I'm really hoping to start honing in on like specific venues in specific neighborhoods, because the whole idea is I want to give people a space to come connect again and again and again. My goal is that people come back to these events and can start to help build a community instead of it being a one-off kind of event that you go to.
And these aren't like, like a dating or a networking thing. This is really about building connections.
Yes, I get that question so often. People are, I actually had a couple come to an event earlier this week, and they were like, are you sure this isn't a dating thing? Like, we got a babysitter, like, we're well off on our own. Like, we don't need another dating thing. And I think that's funny because that is like a really big market, and that's like a really big need. So what I've been telling people is these are not dating events and these are not networking events. But with that said, you really never know who you'll connect with. The thing that I love is at the end of each event, which typically runs like 2 hours, I'll give the invitation that everyone should reach out and take the risk and connect with people who they enjoyed like connecting with throughout the night. And I love it because I start to see people getting back to me and saying like, wow, I really met someone, we went on a date, or like a business thing came about, but it's all organic. There's no pressure at these events. I hate it when you go to a dating event and you walk away and you're like, well, I'm a loser. Like, I walked away single still. You can walk away from these events just feeling really happy and fulfilled, and there's no pressure.
Yeah, some of those things are almost transactional in nature. You're not really going there just for the event. There's something else that needs to happen.
Yeah, people are just waiting till they can like slip their number or a business card. And that's really so far from the intent behind these events, which is cool because it attracts people that are really ready to connect and open up. And it's, every event feels pretty magical in that way.
So where can people go to find more about these events and the cards?
Yeah, they can head to our website or Instagram. And both of those are 365 Meaningful Conversations. And our website has a whole calendar where you can find tickets and where the events are being held. And then our Instagram is a fun thing to follow because a lot of what I post is the inspirational quotes. I'm a firm believer that social media can be a big contributor to this feeling of loneliness, or like everyone else has a perfect life and like my life sucks. So I like it. A lot of what I post is just quotes and questions.
Yes, that's so needed on all that social media. There's so much competition and just badness. So I appreciate your posting good things.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a good deed I try to do.
Well, I'll make sure I'll have those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
This has been Talk to Seattle, and I've been host Jason Rigden. If you want to support the show, go to talktoseattle.com/support.